Alright, assalamu alaikum guys. Today's lesson is going to be on decimals. So we're moving on from chapter 2. However, you should be revising for chapter 2 in preparation for your test in a couple of weeks. But for now, let's have a look at decimals. And it's a bit of a recap from what you should know from primary school. But first things first, let's get started. Now, question 1 is pretty straightforward. I left it behind. So I've jumped straight into question 2. And I've got these 3 examples to help you to understand how to answer this. So first things first, 6 out of 10 plus 4 out of 100. Now, there's a very easy way to be able to do this. Now, what we do, whenever something is over a 10 or 100 or 1,000, these numbers that start with a 1 and end with 0, they're very easy to convert to decimals. So real quickly, what I want you to do for 6 out of 10, first I want you to write 6. Okay? Now, this 10, you can indicate this from the 0. This tells you how many decimal places to move something by. Now, every number you know has a decimal point right there. Every single number. Okay? So that's how we're going to start off our problems. We're going to understand that there's a decimal right there. And then what we're going to do, we're going to move it the number of zeros that are in the denominator. So there's a 10, so there's 1 0. I'm going to move this 1 decimal place, but which way? This way or, this way, or are we moving that way? Okay, well, because we're dividing, this is essentially 6 divided by 10. Because we're dividing, we move the decimal to this position. So the number actually becomes 0.6. Okay, and we move only one spot because there's 1 0. All right, now let's look at 4 out of 100. So again, write 4. Remember that the decimal is starting from here, but now we're dividing by 100, and we can see that there are 2 zeros. That means I need to move this dot or this decimal 2 position. So 1, 2. There should be a decimal right there. So I'm going to put the decimal down. I'm going to put 0 here and 0 here. And there we go. So now I have my sum in a decimal format. Now, the other important thing when adding decimals is the decimal places. This is something we're going to be learning very soon. So look how many digits are after the dot here. There's only 1 digit. But over here, there's 2 digits. So what I need to do is I actually need to match the one with less digits to the one with more digits by placing zeros there. So now this kind of makes things a little bit easier. This is saying 0.60 plus 0.04. Okay, and if we add this, we get 0.64. Okay, so whenever there's some some place value missing, we insert it ourselves, just like we did here with this 0. So now we can see that it's not 6 plus 4. This is actually 60 plus 4 in its decimal positions. All right, let's try it again with E. Go back and revise that if you didn't get it the first time. Obviously, it's on a video, so you can rewind it as many times you want. So let's begin this one. Now we have 3 out of 10. So I'm going to start by writing 3. Get my decimal point in place. And we can see 0, that's 1 0. So I move it 1 decimal place. So there should be a decimal right here. And then I put a 0 in front of it. So that's 0.3. Now with the next one, I'm going to write 9 because 9 is the numerator. And the decimal starts here. But this time, if we look, we have 3 zeros. So I'm going to move 3 decimal places. So 1, 2, 3. A decimal should go right there. We'll put the decimal there. We'll fill every other space with a 0. So 0 here, 0 here, and a 0 here. So every little loop that you get, you put a 0 in place. So now you can see that we have 0.3 plus 0.009. Now, what happens is that can be a bit tricky to add, but what we understand is we have 3 digits after the dot. There are 3 here. 1, 2, 3. 3 digits. Whereas here we only have 1 digit after the dot. Okay, so what I do is I fill up 2 more digits to match this one. So now I have 0 and 0. So look at that. We now have 3 digits here and 3 digits over here. So we can clearly see now, this is basically telling us 300 plus 9. Okay, 300 plus 9, that's easy to do. It's like getting 309. And let's add that. So we get 0.309. And we're done. So as you can see, it's nice and straightforward. Let's try the next one with G. Now with G, you notice this 2 is here. This is very straightforward as well. All it does, it will make us put a 2 in this position. So if you look at the previous question, if I had a 2 adding here, then that there will change to a 2. But let me just show it real quick. First thing you're going to do, you're just going to ignore the 2. You're going to write the 3, and then you're going to write the 5. Just like that. Now, it's 3 divided by 10. We know the decimal's here. We move it one spot because 10 has 1 0. Put the dot right there, put a 0 in front of it. There we go. I've got 0.3. Now, similarly with the next one, it's 5 divided by 100. So I'm going to actually move 2 decimal places. So let's start with the dot here. Move it 1, 2. So we're over there now. And I'm going to put the dot right where the arrow landed. And every other space, so there's a blank space here and a blank space here, I will put zeros. 0, 0. Okay, now just focusing on the decimal part, notice there's 1 digit here after the decimal, and there's 2 digits here after this decimal. So again, I need to match the first one with the second one. So then now there's 2 digits and 2 digits. And that's like adding 30 and 5. 30 plus 5 is 35. So in terms of the decimal part, that's done. But now to add with this whole number, this is even easier. This just joins in the units position. So the answer becomes 2.35. And that's how you do question 2. So give yourselves an opportunity to absorb all of that, and then please finish all of this. The next question, nice and easy, write these decimals in expanded form. All right, so what we do, we're going to break up every single digit here. We have a 7 there, we have a 3 here, a 4 and a 2, but we have to split them up correctly. So for example, the first number is easy, 7 is easy. Break it up like that. The 3, we do not write plus 3. You can see that it's, if we ignore every other number, this would be 0.3. See that? So we go 0.3 plus 0.3. And now we do something similar with the 4. Ignore the other numbers, except for the ones in front. Make sure they are replaced with 0. So you get 0.04 like that. Okay? So we add 0.04. Then with the 2, again, every number in front of it, replace with a 0, and you can see 0.002 plus 0.002. And that's it. That's all you have to do. With question F, we have 40 plus. We don't need to do the 0 here. There's no need for that. With the 7 though, we just need the zeros in front. We can ignore the 4. So we have 0.007. 0.07. And that's that. It's that easy. I'll do one more here for you. 482. The whole number part, just do it on its own. 482. We're not going to split that up. So here we have the 3 in the first decimal position. So ignore everything after it and replace that with 0, and you can ignore the front numbers as well. We don't write 0.3. We don't do that. 1 0 is enough. So in this case, we get 0.3. 0.3. Then we have the 7 here. Ignore the 5. Replace that 3 with a 0 and that with a 0 and ignore the rest. So you can see it's 0.07. 0.07. And with the 5, replace everything in front of it with a 0. And then the first 0 after the dot, you ignore the rest, so you have 0.005. And that's it. That's how you do expanded form. So all of question 3 is like that. Okay, now arrange in ascending order. Ascending means from smallest to biggest. Smallest number to biggest. Okay, it says biggest there. Okay, so now from here, it's pretty easy. Well, first thing you need to do is make sure they're all in the same decimal position. So we're all in one decimal position. And then all we do, we look at the numbers, 3, 6, 8. In that order, it goes from smallest to biggest. So therefore, we rewrite this as 0 0.3, 0 0.6, 0 0.8, and we're done. All right, so make sure they're in the same decimal positions and then write them in the logical order. All right, let's have a look at this one here. Now, notice we have 1 decimal place, 2 decimal place, 2 decimal place. So I need to correct this one. And the way we do that, we have to, so there's 1 decimal place, we need to get it to 2 decimal place by filling it in with a 0. Okay, so let me rewrite that. So that's 0 0.30, 0 0.33, and then 0 0.03. And then you ask yourself, which of these numbers, ignore the decimal, which of these numbers is the smallest? If you were just to look at those numbers on their own. And you would say that 0 0.03 is the smallest. So therefore we get 0 0.03. The next smallest number would be 0 0.30. Okay, but I'm just going to write 0 0.3 now. And 0 0.33. And that's it. And finally, in G, all of them have this different decimal places. So we have 2 here, 1 here, and 3 here. You should always make the smaller decimal places the same as the biggest one, because then you can see your numbers clearly. So here 0 0.85 will be written as 0 0.850. So now it's 3 decimal places, just like the biggest number of decimal places. 0 0.9 will become 0 0.900. Okay, because I need to fill in 2 zeros to make that number 3 decimal places. And then finally we have 0 0.792, which is already 3 decimal places. And now you can see things even clearer. You can actually see what look like the biggest number is actually the smallest. So that there is going to be written first. The next biggest number is 850, or 0 0.850. And obviously the biggest number will be 900, or 0 0.900. And that's the easiest way to arrange your decimals in ascending order. 6 is quite straightforward. Each 100 squares represents 1 whole. In each example, what decimal is shaded? So here, this is 1 whole, so we do 1 point. And over here, we can see we have 3 tens, so that's 30. And then here we have 6, 3 6. B is done the same way, so I'll leave that one for you guys to do. Question 8, also very easy. So all you're looking for is how many digits are after the decimal. So if we look, here's the decimal. And you can see here there are 2 digits. Okay, so that means this is called 2 decimal places. 2 decimal places. So get used to this. You're going to do this quite a lot in the future, so you have to know how to do it properly. Let's look at the next one. Here you can see we have the decimal, and after we have 3 digits. So logic tells us this is 3 decimal places. And then over here with question F, we have after the decimal, we have 3 digits, including that 0. That's fine, you can include that 0. Okay, so that's 3 decimal places. And that's that. Okay, now this is similar to one of the questions we did earlier. So I'm just going to quickly run with it. So again, that top number, write 23. We know the decimal would start here. We have 2 zeros. So we go 1, 2. Put the decimal right there and put a 0 in front, and you're done. Same thing here. Write 7. We know the decimal's here. We have 3 zeros. 1, 2, 3. Put the decimal right there where the arrow is. Fill in every other space with a 0. See, all those loops there, those have to be filled in. So we have 0.007. You can check this on the calculator as well if you're not convinced. All right, question G. This 2 is very easy to deal with. That just goes where the zeros are normally put, the first 0. So now we're going to do 2 point. And then I'm going to write, I've got to be a bit careful with this one. So we know it's 2 point. And then over here, we write 93. We have the decimal starting there, and we go 1, 2, because there's 2 zeros here. All right, so the dot would be right there. Now, if you notice, the dots coincide with each other. Okay, so that means I can actually join the 93 straight after, because they're in the same positions relative to each other. And there's my answer. All right, the reason I did it that way is because of the importance of this one. So here we have 11, and there's always going to be a decimal after the whole number. But now let's just observe 33 on its own for a second. 33 is being divided by 1,000, which is 3 zeros. Normally the decimal would go here. We go 1, 2, 3. So the decimal actually appears here with a 0 in front of it. So that means if I'm going to combine this with this, I have to put the 0 first and then 33. And there we go. That's how we do that. If you need to quickly backtrack, go back and quickly look at how I did that, so you can answer the rest of 9. All right, so writing this as a fraction, very straightforward. So it's basically using the decimals in reverse. So here's the decimal position right there. How many places do you need to move to go past the entire number? Only 1. Well, guess what? That just means we divide by 1 0. So that is going to be 7. And then we put 10 with 1 0. Okay. Over here, with 77, we go write 77 first, and then put your fraction line. Now all you have to do, look at the decimal place, move it the number of times that would suit it. So 1, 2, that means you're going to do 100, because there's 2 zeros in 100. All right, over here, write 601 in the numerator. All right, and then decimals, move it the number of places that it needs. So 1, 2, 3. That's 3 decimal places that you moved. So that means we do 1,000 this time, because 1,000 has 3 zeros. And then finally here, with the whole number in the front, that whole number, you just write it out the front. And then we put a 3 on top, and then we look at how many decimal places we got to move. So from here, that's 1 position, so that means I do 10. You do something similar with the rest of them. I think you should be fine. Okay, with question 11, we have 14 out of 10. Okay, so write 14. You always write the top number. And then from the bottom number, it tells you 1 decimal place, because there's 1 0. Normally the decimals would start here. It's telling you to move 1 decimal place this way. Sorry, boys, my son farted. Put the decimal right there, and we get 1.4. All right. So 1.4 right there. With G, write the numerator number again. So 1186. And you can see here, alright, apparently farts are funny. But anyway, here we have 1,000. There are 3 zeros there. We need to move 3 decimal places. So 1, 2, 3. That means I'm going to put my decimal place right there. 1.186. If I'm rushing a bit, just go back, replay it as many times as you want. It should make sense. All right, and finally question 13 from that exercise. Now, what is the value of the 5 in each number? So if we look here, I wrote a bit messed up here. All right, so we have 24,560.7. The 5 here is in the position of the hundreds. So as you can see, when I read that, I say 24,560. Well, basically, I'm looking for that 500. So that 5 has a value of 500. All right. With decimals, it's a bit harder. Because this one has 4 decimal places, I'm going to write down each position for you. This is, let me use another color. This is called the tenths. I need to make it a bit bigger. This is tenths. This is hundredths. This is thousandths. And this last one, which is the one we're after, is 10,000ths. So basically our answer is going to be 5. Actually, I'm going to answer it 2 ways. Firstly, it's going to be 0.0005. You see, that's its value numerically. So 0.0005. But in terms of language, it's written as 5 10,000ths, or how it's spoken. So both answer. I'd rather you guys answer this way. So for all of these questions, if you could answer it this way, that would be better. But I'm just showing you all the names of the positions after the decimal place. There's obviously more, but the ones that you're mainly going to be using. All right, so hopefully no issues there. All right, let's move on to addition and subtraction of decimals. Hopefully you guys already know how to do this. Addition and subtraction shouldn't be much of a problem. As you can see in these questions, they put everything in the correct positions for you. Okay, that means you're going to have to put these ones in the correct positions when you start doing those. But let's start off with the first one. Now, all you're going to do is vertically add them. Everything has to be in its correct column. If it's not in its correct column, it's going to be hard to do. So that also means that the decimals will hold their position. So my final answer, there's a decimal right there. But the first thing I do is 5 plus 1. So see there's a blank space here? That's essentially a 0. So we go 5 plus 0 plus 1, which is 6. Then here we have 8 plus 6 plus 4, which is 18. Now notice I said 18, we carry the 1. So you should know how to do this from primary. Then we do 1 plus 3 plus 1, which is 5. And that's it. The harder questions are these ones. We have to actually set up your algorithm. So we have firstly 0.9. We have here 15, strictly a whole number. So make sure even that is done in its correct position. So look at that. I wrote 15 with a dot because there's nothing coming after it. And then finally 3.125. 3.125. So look at that. I'll do my best to show the columns. These are the columns I'm dealing with. So there's a lot of empty spaces in this one, which is good for us because it makes adding it easier. Look at this. 0 plus 0 plus 5. 5. 0 plus 0 plus 2. 2. 9 plus 1. Okay, so we've got to be careful here. 9 plus 1 is 10. So we write the 0, put the decimal down, carry the 1. And then 1 plus 5 plus 3, 9. And then we have this 1 here on its own, which is adding 2 zeros. So 1. And there's your answer. So what I just did for M, you will need to do correctly for all of these questions. Okay. Now let's try subtraction as well. They follow the same rules. You still have to maintain the columns, but the difference is we are subtracting this time. Now, look at the first one, 0 take away 5. You can't do that. So that means you have to borrow from the next column. So 0 take away 5, we're going to change that to a 2, borrow, make that a 10. 10 take away 5 is 5. Now, notice the next column, 2 take away 8. You can't do that either. So we borrow from the next column, which is going to turn that into a 1 and this into a 12. So it's actually going to be 12 take away 8, which is 4. Put the decimal down because it's in line. And then you just do 11 take away 9. And 11 take away 9 is 2. With question M, write it as your algorithm. So we have 9. Now, always with decimals, when you're subtracting with decimals, put the dot down first. So we have 9 dot. And then we're going to write this in place as well. So 0.366. Okay, now from here, notice there's a lot of empty spaces here. So we're going to fill them in with zeros. Now, 0 take away 6, we can't do. And I can't even borrow from the next one. And I can't even borrow from the next one. We have to borrow all the way from here. But watch how we borrow. We're going to turn that into an 8. This becomes a 10. But because this needs a digit, I'm going to turn that into a 9. Turn this into a 10. But this one needs a digit. So we're going to turn that into a 9 and borrow that until we stop. So we end up with 10 take away 6 here. So 10 take away 6 is 4. 9 take away 6 is 3. So look how easy it becomes now. 9 take away 3 is 6. And then 8 take away nothing is 8. Alright, so you have 2 periods of maths. So that's why this lesson was a bit long. Please make sure you get those 2 exercises done and everything should be sweet. Alright, take care guys. Assalamu alaikum.